Hey guys, I asked, you answered. I put a little poll up on my Instagram, and here we are, the 50mm lens for a day, 1 out over cinematic iPhone videos. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Today I'm gonna be going out with just this guy. This is my f1.4 50mm prime lens. Now, one of the reasons that these lenses are so great, so when you have a lens like an f2.8 24-70, you get a lot of focal range and it's pretty good at all that, but it's not super good at one thing. It seems to be a constant in life. But anyways, this here, if you look at this massive element, you can see how big that aperture is. It's so gorgeous. You look through that, you really see why this lens is so spectacular. It's just a huge glass element in there for anyone wanting to get into portrait photography or anything that's just gonna have really good subject separation, with your subject separating from the background, having that great bokeh, that blown out background. This is an awesome lens to get started with. Now keep in mind, since it is a fixed focal length, it's only 50mm. If you want to zoom in or zoom out, you're gonna have to use your feet. So that's one of the things that's gonna be fun though, I think, is really challenging myself to find unique and interesting perspectives. Just to go back to that element inside of the camera, if you guys watched my last video, which was about taking out just the kit lens, for comparison, you see how tiny that little element in there is. It's just really, really small. And that's where the light comes in. So with that, you can really see the difference on why something like that 50mm lens is gonna be an awesome option. Now, I think getting a 50mm is probably, if you have a kit lens, the 50mm is the next step. I don't know, it's exhilarating capturing that first like really wow photo when you're starting to get into photography, and the first photo that really wowed me like that was with that 50mm lens. So I'm excited to take this out for a day, and only this. So we'll go out, I'll take some photos. Hope you guys enjoy this. We'll go over some of the photos, of course, when I get back, and yeah, see you guys then. Bye. All right, we're gonna try and make this fast. I've got 11% battery left in my iPad. All right, so we're gonna go through some of these photos that I took. I'm gonna try and get all of my settings up on the screen too, so if those are pertinent, I can discuss those as well. One sec. So the first image here is more of a landscape than it is anything. With the 50mm lens, you don't have a whole lot of view or perspective to work with, so what you're gonna be utilizing is the compression that you get. Since it's punched in so much, that's a unique vantage point. You wanna use that in your favor. So that's kind of what we did here. We have the tower in the center and we have the trees on the side kind of framing that. There's a couple more that are similar to this. Now this next shot I actually shot through a chain link fence. I was scootering down towards my location I was planning on going to. I saw these dogs in the field and I decided to stop and get a picture. I shot this at f1.8. What that means is that the aperture is going to be wide open, so a very shallow depth of field, which is why you see that foreground and that background rolling in and out of focus with just the dogs tack sharp in the middle. So that was kind of a fun image shooting through that fence there. Here we have another landscape type photo, but again, using that compression that you get with a 50mm lens to your advantage. You get the trees in the building framing that water tower, you have that smack in the middle, and you can get a fun composition with that. So on to the next. This is a classic composition here. You've seen this photo 1,000 times. I decided I was gonna stop and get it while I was on my way. So here we are looking down Washington Avenue. It's not the best shot in the world, but it's a classic photo. It's perfect for that 50mm lens. Here we have kind of a candid portrait, some guy sitting on his bike. Again, we have the f-stop down to f2.5, and that gives us that subject isolation, that foreground out of focus, the background out of focus, him tack sharp in the middle, kind of focusing on that subject. Here again, we got kind of a candid photo here. This guy, as you can see, is starting to notice I'm taking a picture of him. Again, f2.0, we shot this at 1/1000, and that's because it was super bright out, and I like how this photo turned out. Now these next series of photos, this first one, and I got about 4 black and white photos coming up after that. All of these are shot at an incredibly fast shutter speed, and all of these are really trying to get action. I was realizing, what am I going to do to really utilize this f1.4 50mm lens to its maximum potential to get that really shallow depth of field. And I decided, hey, I can get some waves splashing in action and I could throw some rocks, and so that's kind of what I ended up with here. So let's take a look. Again, f2.2, 1/2000, you really get that frozen action here. I'm up on the upper stair throwing the rocks down. You can see them making contact, little spatters of water everywhere. Turned out kind of fun. And again, we're gonna go through these kind of quick. I got 4 black and white photos that again are going to be freezing that action. This one is 1/1600. Looks like all of these are, except for the last one, all shot at f1.6 to get that really sharp, narrow depth of field. Now this one, while also showcasing that shallow depth of field and freezing that water, this one was actually shot out over the bay, and this one you get a little bit more of the cityscape really out of focus in the background, and I really like how this turned out. I will say with a lot of these, you gotta set your camera shutter to continuous shots. So as you hold down the camera shutter, keeps taking photos. That is how you're gonna get some of this action. You see that wave rolling in about to hit the rock, you start taking photos, one of those is gonna have that really tack sharp frame. So I really like how this one turned out. It might be my favorite that I got on the night. This here, again, I have my ND filter on for this. We have a long exposure, so a 15-second exposure at f22, so really stop that down. That means that aperture is just barely open, and you're able to kind of get that water smoothed out. It was pretty choppy that night, but the water smoothed out like glass with that 15-second exposure, and you get some of the city in the background. But again, a 50mm lens is not going to be ideal for something like this, so you kind of got to pick your frame in a way that's going to be interesting and work with what you've got. So those are the photos I was able to get. It was a fun experiment. I really like forcing myself to think of unique things to shoot when I only have a single lens with me that only has a single focal length. So I might do something like that again, potentially with like a telephoto lens. So I have only a super zoom lens and I have that to work with. So I'm really kind of boxed in. We'll see. I might do something similar also with only an ultra wide lens. That is something I'm very unfamiliar with. So if you guys would like to see that, that would be awesome. Let me know. I mean, if you like this video, let me know. That's awesome. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I'll be back for more coming up soon. All right, goodbye.